What up, guys? That Comic Awesome here, doing another review. This time doing The Flash, number 41. And The Flash has been consistently one of my favorite series since kind of diving in. Joshua Williamson is killing it. And again, writing good stories that feel like classic superhero stories. Also, if anyone hasn't checked out his Deathbed, that's another good one. A little more mature, but equally, if not better, than Flash. Just because it's not a licensed property. But you have a little more free reign. But this is good. So at the end of the last issue, Barry had his powers stolen by Grodd and pretty much proclaimed old Wally West, the Flash. So now there is just the one Flash. And it's funny, like going through this, how quick that can change somebody. But the kind of basis of this issue now doesn't really have a lot to do with Grodd, but everyone dealing with the fact that Barry no longer has his powers. And you'll see some very interesting, kind of how people almost like they deal with grief, like how they deal with it. So let's kind of jump in, and the Flash team stole this lightning wand, which goes into Grodd's lightning rod, which is stealing the speed from Central City, and steals Speedster's power. So he wants all of the Speed Force to himself. Right now, there are obviously multiple Speedsters, but he wants all of their Speed Force because he is dying, and that's the only way he can be saved. So they're, him and his henchmen, which is Mina, which is Negative Flash, and then Raijin, which is kind of a lightning Flash, talk about how they need to go looking for Flash to get that lightning rod back. And I love this. I'm not worried. The wand will come to us. Trust me. He says, I know the Flash better than he knows himself. So I think right there, Grodd is already talking about knowing kind of the hubris of Barry. Barry reminds me a lot of the Spider-Man and Peter Parker, in the way that the weight of the world is eternally on top of his shoulders, and he feels that, and he feels he has to do things kind of himself to accomplish goals, rather than a team, be a team and accomplish them, as more of a unit. So here you see him trying to run, but tripping and falling because he no longer has his powers. I'm going to kind of skip around because there's some really interesting stuff here. And so they're testing it, Barry's powers, and I love this entrance where Wally comes in. He says, and this Flash won't let Grodd and his army get anywhere near us. And he kind of just he has the lightning coming out of him. Again, Wally looks badass. And of course, Avery has no idea who he is. She's like, oh, whoever this, at one point, she calls this Wally Kid Flash's older brother, which I guess, they kind of are siblings in that sense. But they talk about how the rod, even if the lightning rod is activated, once it gathers up all the speed, it could drain the speed out of the entire world, including the speedsters, and everything would just die, except for Grodd. So this is where we really get the hubris of Barry. He wants Kid Flash and Avery to vacate the city while Wally evacuates all the people. So pretty much going around and getting all the people who are stuck, kind of forced in time, out of the city before they reach absolute zero and they die. So Kid Flash and Avery kind of go off, and there's this really great moment between Barry and Wally where he's like, me being the Flash is the only way to beat Grodd. And again, I get what Barry's saying, because again, he has this the world on his shoulders mentality that he is the only one that can handle the tough stuff, that can, really take on the big bad guys, because he doesn't want anybody else to get hurt, but it comes across as arrogant and selfish, and that's exactly how Wally is taking it. He says, Barry, you keep saying that I'm the Flash again, but it sounds like you don't trust me. And he's like, well, this wand's the only thing that gives me my power. Almost, again, it's almost like a drug addict where, he's like fantasizing over this lightning wand that will hopefully give him his powers back, because he has some residual speed force, which allows him to be normal speed while everybody else is completely stopped. But that will eventually wear off, and then he will be totally powerless. So he says, my powers, without them, I'm getting the speed force back is the only way to take Grodd down. And Wally's like, what did Grodd say to you? I know firsthand he can get into your head, twist everything into a nightmare. And he's like, and Barry's kind of just like playing it off like, look, I need to do this. Side note, one thing I didn't like about this art is Barry's like anime hair. Some panels it looks really cool. Some panels it just looks like Cloud. That's the best I could come up with. So him and Wally get into this little argument, but then what I love is you get Wally going around the city and he's remembering everybody that he picks up. He's like, hey, this guy, I know his flower shop. I still, I go there and get tulips. This is, Mrs. Grant, she had a baby, Mr. Ross, and he's like, this and that. And meanwhile, he's helping the city. Like, Barry is more or less trying to help himself. And of course, then he ends up breaking the wand, his hope of getting his power back. I want to skip. Yeah. So we'll skip to this part. So in doing so, this again is the hubris of Barry Allen. He goes to the one place he probably should not go. He goes to Blackgate. I'm sorry, not Blackgate. Iron Heights. And goes to the one person in the entire world who he probably shouldn't trust, but then does. And it does look badass, but you get Godspeed back. Now, I didn't read this series, this run, back when Godspeed was kind of a player and a villain. But so, essentially, Barry lets him out to help him, even though he has 3 capable speedsters in Wally, Kid Flash, and Avery to help him take on Grodd. But instead of enlisting those he loves and cares about, he sends them away and decides to go with Godspeed, who is a villain and a murderer, essentially. So it's interesting, the dynamic there. But yeah, if you're not reading this series, go back to issue 39 and pick up there. That's the 700th issue. And then read the annual, 40 and then 41. I highly recommend it. It's a great, entertaining book. Subscribe over here. Watch some more videos. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you next time.